Hey everyone, welcome to the webinar from Florida Atlantic University College of Business, the Hospitality and Tourism Management Program. Yes, that's a mouthful. I hope you're joining us not for your first time, but that you'll come back and see our webinars regularly. I'm Peter Ricci. I'm the Director of the Hospitality and Tourism Program. Florida Atlantic University is proud to have a College of Business with over 8,000 students. We're one of the largest 15 in the United States. And our hospitality program is top ranked primarily because of our proximity to excellent hospitality venues and businesses. Today I'm very lucky to have panelists from many of these venues, and we're talking about hospitality and tourism, the next steps as we emerge through and hopefully post the COVID pandemic. So we have 8 panelists. We're going to spend an hour with them. We have several questions. Thanks to all of you that sent in questions. Among the 3,300 of you who are registered, we had many, many questions, and I greatly appreciate that. We have with us David Hoenemeyer, Chief Operating Officer, Seminole Gaming. Welcome, David. We have Chris Esposito, who's in the Destination Management Company world. Hello, Florida. We have Danielle Rosse. Danielle is the proprietor of Oceans 234, a great restaurant right up the street from our main campus. Donelle Zunker from the fabulous Marriott Harbor Beach Resort, where I interned many, many years ago. Welcome, Donelle. We have Ed Karlan, who's at the Chateau Elan Resort and Winery in Greater Atlanta metro area, prior to Hilton West Palm Beach, and down here in South Florida with us. Elizabeth Rizzuto from Xtreme Action Park, which if you haven't been to, has a lot of action and a lot of activities. Heiko Dobrikow, who's Vice President of Las Olas Company and General Manager of the Riverside Hotel in downtown Fort Lauderdale. And last but certainly not least, Kelly Cavers from Discover the Palm Beaches, which is our destination marketing organization, our DMO for this region of South Florida. So welcome everyone. Thanks for spending time with us. I know it's difficult with a panel of 8 to stay on track, and I have a roadmap of questions, so I'm going to do my very best, all right? I'll start, let me start with Danielle, because she has a lot of local regulars at her restaurant. The first question sent to us was, many predicted that the first guest through your doors would be your historically most loyal, and is that true in your case?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Actually, that is the case for us. You know, the first few weeks that we opened, we recognized all of our regulars, and people, I think, came out to support the people that they've connected with in the community. So, you know, we've really done a lot of work there, and we found that people wanted to support us, and they made it a point to come out and say to us, hey, we're here because we want to support you, you know, whether we've done something with them in the past or whatnot. So that has been true.
Okay. And David, how about you?
Yeah, I think it depends on the region, Peter. We've seen a real strong bounce back over on the West Coast and the Tampa market. Actually, business levels, as crazy as this sounds, are actually exceeding what we did prior to shutdown. Here in South Florida, a little bit different. And speaking specifically to the people we expected to return, we've struggled with the seniors. And, you know, clearly that's a group that is our bread and butter and is a very consistent piece of the business. And, you know, for any number of reasons, they're staying away at this point. But I don't think that was completely unexpected.
Okay. And Heiko, let me ask one of our 3 hoteliers on the panel. How about at your property? Have you had leisure guests come back first that normally would have come back?
Yeah, thank you for asking the question and allowing me to be part of this panel. We never closed the hotel. We actually stayed open, and we left it open for essential travel, which was military, media, medical, JetBlue, airline crew, and that sort of thing. But on the 18th of May, when we opened up the hotel to the public, it was definitely the repeat leisure customer. It was not the new leisure customer. It was a repeat leisure customer that's coming back. Trailing is really the business travel for us. Business travel has not recuperated for us at this point. I think a lot of companies are waiting until we go into maybe phase 2 or phase 3. And needless to say, the group customer has diminished for us. So it's all leisure, Really from a regional aspect, anything that's about 3 to 4 hour drive in to come here, and we've seen that also supported in the airport numbers. The airlines are down anywhere between 87 to 89% in load or in passengers coming through the airport.
Okay, so now let me switch that a little bit to the destination side. You know, Chris, you're not doing any meetings now at the DMC, and Kelly, I don't know how many you're selling at this time, but Chris, are your clients that normally came to your regions that you operate in, are they the ones that are first attempting to rebook, or are they saying, listen, all hands off, we don't know where we're going to go? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think it carries through quite the same when you're comparing leisure to group and loyalty, because there's oftentimes the individuals that we're communicating with, the meeting planners, are not really the end decision makers as far as if a meeting is going to take place or not, right? Those are decisions being made at a higher level at the C-suite, the president, CEO, director of a division, and even director levels are probably not at this point in time given the leeway to make those decisions, right? It's probably going all the way to the top. They're deciding, hey, are we going to let our people meet? Are we going to meet? There's perception issues, there's liability issues. It's very different when you're making a decision for your people or for a group of people versus making a decision for yourself, right?
Absolutely.
If I decide I want to take on a certain level of risk that I'm comfortable with, and I want to go to a restaurant or a hotel, very different than me telling one of my employees that we're having a meeting and you're required to be there, and come on along, so.
Yeah. Elizabeth, being in an attraction, do you have a lot of regulars? Do you have a lot of loyals? Were they the first to come back in your world, or?
So yes, I would say we were surprised. We had a lot of regulars for the track. So our venue is primarily, a go-kart track, and that's what we're known for. So a lot of our guests looking for the track, a lot of our racers, they came right back. And surprisingly, a lot of our previous employees, too, came back. They wanted to come back. But as far as other guests, they've been new. And I think maybe because we're the first in the area to open of this style, we're the first attraction in the area to open, and we had a lot of new families and a lot of new guests come in.
Okay.
So it's mixed. I think it's areas, right? So
Right.
Like David was saying, the track was popular for our loyals, but the rest of the park was open to new customers.
Okay. All right. Let me move to the next one, and Donelle, I'll start with you. What are some things that you planned? I'm sure all of you being leaders had some idea of strategic planning that changes every day anyway, but what are some things you planned for the reopening and the next steps that have worked very well or not very well?
So there was a lot of time spent on planning for the new cleaning procedures and the new safety procedures to be put into place in every area of the hotel. So we spent a lot of time working with the team on training, making sure that they understood how to have conversations around safety with the guests, because that's a new area. We've always put safety first, but it's different when it's this type of safety that you're talking about. So we spent a lot of time doing that. And I think the biggest obstacle we've seen, and I think we've got a really good handle on it now, and I think Heiko can attest to that as well, but initially when you open the doors, a lot of the guests did not want to wear the masks. They were on vacation. They thought they were on vacation from the virus.
Right.
It took a lot to really pressure and put pressure on the guests to understand it's for everyone's safety that we're doing this. And so that took a little bit longer to really kind of come through the culture of the hotel to make sure that every area of the hotel, they're wearing their masks at all times. And I think that was kind of the biggest learning for us and the obstacle, because they were on vacation. So in their mind, they're on vacation from everything, right?
Right.
But I think, the planning really helped, and I think the training really helped, and we actually have created some new positions to help support kind of what we're going through now as far as the education of the guests, and I think those have helped as well.
Okay, and it's interesting you say that, because at the port if the ships were sailing. At the port, I'd expect security. In a casino environment, I'd expect security. I'd expect somebody there policing my mask wearing without as much difficulty as your beautiful beachfront resort or at Danielle's restaurant, or at Elizabeth's attraction. I don't want you roaming around my golf cart with a police-style atmosphere. So it's a very delicate balance. And then Kelly promoting the destination, we don't want that perception. We want clean and safe, but we don't want to police. But I can tell you, my own anecdotal personal experience, I expect and rely upon the security guards at a casino when I'm there to tell someone to put their mask on, and it makes me feel safer. But if I were on holiday, I don't know how I'd feel. So, Ed, let me come to you for the next one. Mentioning face masks, while they may be temporary, other societies have been using them for quite a while, not only for virus protection, for pollution, etc. Do you think any of these initiatives that we have will now become the long-term ongoing trend? And is face masks one of those?
It's a great question. We opened the resort before Memorial Day with, and of course, with our staff being PPE, face masks, and gloves, and a recommendation to our customers that we recommend and highly encourage them to wear face masks. We since then moved to face masks are mandatory for our guests about 2 weeks ago, and we're kind of seeing probably I'll use the 50% of our customers are comfortable wearing it or willing to wear it. The other half are a little bit uncomfortable, similar to what we just heard about a resort scenario, and they're on vacation and they simply just want to relax and don't want to be bothered with a mask. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure if masks are here permanently to stay. I think it's going to be a personal preference outside, and once we get past the hurdles of the pandemic and we can solve that. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
It'd be interesting to gauge.
It's an interesting dilemma when you mix visitors from all over the world and every state coming to your destination. So, Kelly, are you getting any of those types of questions about the destination itself, what's required, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, people want to understand what's happening in the state of Florida, then they look at the county, and then they look at the city. What we looked at is that they want consistency across all of their touch points on the customer journey. And so what we did is we implemented a third-party destination-wide program through International Sanitary Supply Association. It's called the GVAC accreditation, because how will we can control it when they landed at the airport, then when they got into their transportation, and then to the hotel or a restaurant. And so this was one of the things that we looked to help solve, to create consistency, because that's what customers are asking for, is how are you giving me consistency across my touch points?
Sure. And then in turn, you would know which properties, which venues are implementing those, and then you could do a tour with the planner to simply use those venues. And that leads me to the Safe and Sound program at Seminole Gaming. David, I applaud you because I feel very safe there as a customer, and I'm very, very picky. Before we started the webinar, I was speaking about some restaurants. We're all operating here in our county where I live at a 50% occupancy, yet some of the restaurants violated every day that I've seen, and I won't frequent them, and I don't feel safe there. But at Seminole Gaming, although if you look, I encourage you to Google public places and your COVID risk. If you're viewing this, you will see that theaters, arenas, casinos are toward the more extreme version of being at risk, but I feel the safest at the Seminole properties is because of the Safe and Sound program. It has a mixture of personal protection, I'm reading here, screening and temperature checks, physical distancing, cleaning and sanitation with actual roving teams, air filtration systems, and so on. It's an incredibly detailed, arduous endeavor, but I feel safer as a guest. Now, I can't imagine that being rolled out all over the place. And David, if you want to comment, how do you even maintain such an operation? But to Kelly's point, if I'm a meeting planner, I would use somebody that's gone through checklist A, B, C, D, following guidelines like she mentioned.
Yeah, Peter. So, and to that point is we have a fairly significant group business here, having been in Las Vegas for the last 25 years or so. Not to that extent, but it's a significant piece of the business. And I can tell you that without exception, the groups that have reached out to us, at least specifically for the Guitar Hotel, the first question is, what do you have in place? And that's probably because of the litigious society that we live in here, that they want to be able to report back to whomever and show them a document that specifically outlines what exactly the plans are that we have in place.
Recording.
But it has not been a struggle. Gamblers by nature are entrepreneurial type folks. And so it's been a struggle, especially the fact that we have continued to allow smoking and drinking in the operations. And so, somebody was joking earlier, we've created a lot of chain smokers, people that just in order to keep their mask down will keep a cigarette in their mouth or in their hand or whatever. So, it's been a challenge. And we started out with the viewpoint that we would be fairly lax about it and see how the customer would react. And unfortunately, we've had to become more police-like than we would care to be, because people just, for whatever reason, just don't want to do it. And so we've made it very clear it's zero tolerance now. You don't wear a mask, we're going to throw you out. It's that simple.
Well, and Elizabeth, I'm thinking the last time I was at Xtreme Action Park was for a group event with an open bar. And then, Danielle, all of you have restaurants with alcohol. After a few drinks, I'm, hey, my mask is off. I'm on vacation at the beautiful Harbor Beach Marriott, or I'm at the Riverside. This has got to be challenging to say the least. And how do you police? We're always on that fine line. Kelly has a background at United. I mean, the airlines, we can ask you for ID. We can do this. We can do that. We can be more strict about our rules versus I'm going to Oceans 234 for my birthday dinner and I don't want to participate in your silly rules, right? So we're confronted with this. Heiko, I want to ask you following up on David, a lot of the questions related to how is hospitality going to simultaneously operate with fewer people and reduced rates, but these much increased costs of security, cleanliness, sanitation. How are you dealing with this right now in your world?
Yeah, thanks for asking the question. And what David said is 100% right. His safe and sound program, and I'm going to challenge everybody, why not roll it out everywhere? It's just my response to that. Why not? What's holding us back to roll it out as significant as his organization did? And our organization was the same way. We went full bore. We probably do a lot more things than most hotels or more restaurants are doing, and we invested a lot in this infrastructure, whether it's thermal cams at entry points, whether it is ionizing HVAC technology that actually purifies the air in meeting rooms, in restaurants, in the public spaces. These are significant investments that you do. We have to understand what actually the new experience that we are selling, and the new experience we're selling is not a great drink, it's not good food, it's not a nice comfortable bed. It is actually safety. Safety is what we are selling today, And when you look at the data that we're getting from the Convention Visitors Bureau, and when they are querying on a weekly basis what's important to the customer, having a safe experience is important, right? And, for our hotel, we temperature check everybody coming in. It is mandatory for our guests. We let them know prior to that. But also when they come to our restaurant or whether they come to our hotel, that temperature check gives us the opportunity to talk about our safety experience to them. And it really sets the stage to them. I think one of the questions that you have, where did we fail, right? The nice thing is that we stayed open, and this was fluid. We could implement things one step at a time and adjust and pivot what would work, what would not work. I think the biggest thing that I was really not very well prepared, if you suddenly have an associate, a team member that tests positive.
Sure.
Because now you lose an entire crew for an entire shift, and it has happened here. And now we have to wait until the results are coming back, right? Mm-hmm. And when you take a look how we are a margin business, right? Our labor is based on margins. So one of the things that I'm now working on, do I have a B team in place in order to step in to take over that operation, whatever that operation may be,
wow,
to help the team? Think about this, right?
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, you need to quarantine everybody. Everybody needs to be tested, and
right.
we need to get the results back. And that may take 4 or 5. We're still waiting on results, 7 days in some cases.
Yeah.
So I was really not prepared for that as much as I would have liked to.
Very interesting. You know, the next question I'm going to throw at Danielle and Kelly and Elizabeth, because it's a social type. We had several questions asking, how are you, the business owner, going to prevent fighting, distancing challenges, arguments at my wedding, my event, my theme party, etc., in that zone? So Elizabeth, let me ask you that tough question. I mean, how are you going to stop that?
So fortunately, we've actually restarted birthday parties, small group packages of 10 that come, and we haven't had that situation. I would say we do have a extreme clean team that also doubles as police officers, right? So they're in the bright yellow vests, and they are identified as someone that is here to help with the extra cleaning and the extra steps that we need. So they're also present with our party hosts during an event. So if there is any issue with wearing your mask and so on, we do approach the guest and ask them to keep it on. I mean, we made custom masks that say, please wear your mask or go home. I mean, just exactly what you're saying. I mean, because it's very loud here with the music and the crowds, so we had these custom designed so that we could just almost point. You know, we're not playing. we want to keep everyone safe and healthy. So, right? So things like that, just really enforce it. We had even thought of ideas of putting someone in a race suit with the helmet, kind of to go around too and be our mascot to help with that as well. Make it fun, like we did with a lot of our signage and a lot of our messaging as well. We made it fun. We put in characters. This is an entertainment venue. People are here to have a good time, but it's also stressing the importance of keeping everyone safe, and let's work together to keep everyone healthy.
Okay.
So fortunately, we haven't had that issue in the events that we've done. Yeah. We've been good.
Danielle, how about you? How are you doing it at the restaurant?
Yeah, so we had some similar challenges the first few weeks that we opened, where people just were very defiant and wanted to fight with, the hostess who was trying to seat them and have them wear their mask. And now I think it's more widely accepted. But because we were diligent those first few weeks, now in these coming weeks, people are only coming to us because they know that we're doing the right thing. So that has been a huge, quote unquote, marketing tool for us, because we were diligent from the beginning. And the people that maybe were upset, are coming back because they know we're one of the only places that are doing it, and it was widely known.
That's outstanding. That ties in exactly to David and Heiko's point, is why not be that, because that is what we're selling right now, is safety, security, and the experience, I'm going to ask the next one to Chris, Ed, and Kelly, and probably Donelle a little bit. So let's talk about the DMC world. There's probably not a lot of group transportation or group meetings right now. What do you have in place as meeting planners call you to assure them that they're going to have a safe meeting if they use you, Chris, if they use the company, What are you telling them?
Yeah, so we have some standards that we've created in each category and subcategory of service and how you can operate a meeting safely, whether it be in an F&B scenario or in a transportation scenario. And it's a lot of the same things, right? It's not rocket science. It's all about, covering your face, so wearing a mask. It's about having the antibacterial fluids and whatnot available. It's about social distancing. So, in an F&B scenario, most people are steering away from buffets, right? They're moving more towards plated functions. This sort of goes back to your last question. I think it's wiser to design the event around social distancing rather than trying to enforce social distancing, if that makes sense. So if you put a bunch of people in a room and you give them alcohol and it's a reception style, they're not going to stand 6 feet apart. They're not going to, create that social distancing scenario. But if you put them all at a round of 10 and maybe you only sit 4 or 5 people at that round of 10, you start being able to gain that distancing. You can separate the tables a certain amount. People are stationary, right? So, and that goes across the board, whether it's a tour and activity. Don't offer, don't promote, or provide a disclaimer around those events that are just naturally going to occur and people being close to each other, right? So try to stay away from those. Try to promote those that there's going to be that natural social distancing. So you got to think of it on the front end.
I like that. I like that a lot because by design, we've been used to meetings, conventions, theme dinners, and this for decades. So we have to re-educate and retrain them, and with seating, it kind of gravitates naturally to what you're going for. I really like that. Now, I'm going to ask the next three for the hoteliers because these questions came primarily from hoteliers and DMOs along these lines, okay? So to speak, we've noticed that the industry is knee-jerk cutting primarily in sales first, yet we haven't noticed it in revenue management. Why would the industry cut sales talent first when it's our hope to bring back business? So, Ed, can I throw that one at you first, and then I'll go to Danielle? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. I think part of the reason from what I'm learning in that regard is that it seems that at least over the short term, that most of the business many of our hotels are going to get are leisure or transient based. Not discounting business travel is probably going to take some time for that to come back and obviously the group segment to come back. And from my understanding and my experience, most of the sales teams at many of the hotels or the bulk or the largest percentage of the sales managers at many hotels were focused on the group segment in many cases. So I think that's probably why in terms of the staffing and who was cut and who may be furloughed longer than others, that those group sales talent that's out there will be, the last folks to come back.
Okay.
And if I could have just a quick go back, we had 2 weddings here at the resort on July 4th, each 120 people. And I think what's important to note, and I'm sure everyone is doing this piece, but it's early in advanced communication with the bride and groom and the parents in telling them how the setup will be, how we're going to set the room, working together and setting the ceremony that makes sense. And we talked about dance floors a second ago. We even went ahead and put, the 6-foot stickers on the dance floor. And I think, once we set the room that way and the doors close and the music's on and the drinking is happening, it is very difficult to police those guests and ensure they stay 6 feet apart, but they are within the confines of the room.
I saw a dance floor with 6 feet plexiglass cubicles.
Oh, gosh.
At the last part when everybody danced in their little clear cubicle, and every once in a while one of the cubicles would light up from the pressure of you dancing, so you'd be a star for that 5 minutes. And I said, that's great, everybody's in a cubicle, but it's different, Donelle, let me ask you that sales question, because I want to comment on it at the end, having come through sales, but I want to hear your version of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I started in sales as well 35 years ago. And I will tell you that Marriott took a little bit of a different approach. We kept a lot of our salespeople, but we redeployed them against different things. So what they traditionally were going after, to Ed's point, is no longer really looking to make decisions today. They're waiting to see what happens. And so a lot of the time and energy spent around that, it wasn't getting any momentum. So we took our team and really looked at who is traveling, and are there segments of business that are traveling right now that could use our creative minds to figure out how to help them achieve that.
Okay.
And so, so we took a little bit of a different approach. And with revenue management, I mean, these days, especially with the amount of transient travelers out there, revenue management is key. So I think both the sales and the revenue are equally important, but for different purposes.
Okay, great. I'm glad, because I got two sides of that. That's perfect. And, you know, we're on a time constraint, so I'd love to hear from all of you on all of these. But, you know, Dan, I'm going to ask you something. What is a major change with COVID that you don't think our business will ever change going forward? What's some major change that occurred that you don't think will ever go back to the way we were? That's for you, David.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Peter. I wasn't sure if you said David or Danielle. Well, you know, I think that to the earlier point, I think that the whole idea of the clean teams, so to speak, and the increased visibility is something that will last in the future. I'm not sure about some of the specific COVID-related initiatives, and again, near term, I think they will. Yeah, I guess everybody sort of holds out for the magic bullet of when the vaccine happens, and who knows when. I'm still, you know, I'm skeptical as to how long something like this really takes to bring to market. But this could be a while where we are stuck with the thermal imaging and the masks and you know, more visible types of concepts and such. But certainly, I think the visibility of clean teams and being part of your marketing spiel. You know, to Heiko's point earlier, we have done a tremendous amount of surveying with our customers as to what they feel good about and what they think we need to do more of. And clearly the visibility of and the enforcement of is something that they are either very satisfied with or are happy to call us out for not doing as good a job as we could be. And again, it's a slippery slope with the enforcement piece, but you know, our better customers whose opinion we're interested in, they've been very vocal in saying, you got to do a better job of throwing people out that aren't adhering to your policies.
Yeah, I agree. Danielle, how about you? What's something in the restaurant world you think will never change back?
I exactly what David said. I think that visibility of the cleanliness and the clean teams is where it's at right now. I think masks will be around for quite some time, especially for those that are at risk. You know, if we saw somebody in a mask a year ago, it would have been a little alarming, so to speak, but now it's going to be definitely more commonplace.
Yeah. Okay. And Kelly, how about you selling the destination? Is this part of your conversations now? Your whole sales presentation has changed from, you know, we're the most beautiful place on earth to here's how we can help you have a safe visit, or what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I think when we look at how do we sell the destination from a safe side, and what we're looking at the measurements we're taking is, I'm going to piggyback off what Ed Karlan said was the communication, an increased level of pre-communication. And when you talk about the meetings and conventions, we hear a lot of this hybrid meetings that you're going to have, you know, these hybrid experiences of people coming in and doing maybe a conference call or something like that. And I think it starts very early on, you know, destination servicing at the beginning, making sure people understand and can visualize what things look like. I think from a destination standpoint, selling the wide open spaces. You know, our meeting planner guide has always kind of focused on what's within the four walls. And now we're expanding that to show, okay, what's the park outside? What are those outdoor spaces? And make sure they understand how they can safely social distance within the spaces that are available.
Okay.
So I think some of this is bringing a lot of good into how we sell into the future and creative ideas.
Okay. I'm going to ask this one to Elizabeth. No, you know, it's time for Heiko. Let me go down to the left corner. Heiko, do you think there's any parts of hospitality, and I'll ask you and Elizabeth both, that are up because of COVID? Anybody capitalizing on this so you can say, hey, you're a student, go do this, because this is the next 5 years?
Oh, that's an interesting question, and you know, for us it was interesting. What was up was the revenue in restaurant, right? There was certainly a pent-up demand of people wanting to get out, and we didn't think that the folks were going to come out in the droves that they actually did. And when I saw this actually happening, it kind of caught us by surprise. So that was kind of up. But I wanted to just fall back on something that was maybe not said. I think one thing that will not go away, that will change our industry, is the wellness check for our team members. I think we all learned the aspect that a sick employee is not a good team member for your operation. And I grew up in the era where you have the schnivels, you have a fever, you go to work, rough it up, right?
Right.
We're not going to do this. I don't think we're going to go backwards on that one. I think we want a healthy team. We don't want sick employees to infect other employees, because at the end of the day, that's going to affect our productivity. So for us, it was the restaurants, and then from the previous questions, actually, team members that are sick and doing the wellness check.
Okay. Elizabeth, anything you've seen unique? Like, I don't want to tell you mine, but I'll tell you after what I tell students. Anything you think that's up that's going to stay creative?
In our industry, wow, that's a tough one. I mean, I can tell you, like Heiko, I was surprised to see how many people came back out. We didn't expect, we had 2,300 visitors the very first week, and all we had available was karting and skating.
Wow.
So to see that bounce back so quickly was a surprise. And it's definitely lower than what we're used to, but just more than we expected.
Right.
So
Well, I agree, and I can tell you, if I get vaccinated, I'll be out probably for 48 hours straight at Danielle's eating, and then drinking at Heiko's bar, and then going gambling, because I'm going to be raging to go do something. So that's how we all feel. And I think we had, like Heiko said, a burst of this pent-up demand, and now our numbers are kind of tempering it again. So everybody's in a, do I go, do I not go, do I go, do I not go kind of stage.
And I would say that the demographic of what we're seeing too is the younger, definitely between under 40 is coming out. That's what we're seeing a lot of.
They feel more invincible, you think? They're less afraid? That's kind of how most people portray it in their conversations or in the media.
And younger kids and babies. We've had whole families here with babies come out too. So that was surprising. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to throw a tough one at all of you on the budget side. So here's the question, and I'll just go around to all of you to answer this briefly. Many industry executives in hospitality, on every webinar I've seen, it's kind of the general term, says that this is a speed bump. Most of them are older than I am, and they've lived through 9/11, recession, SARS, Ebola, so on and so forth. About 150 people that sent in comments had that sentiment, saying they don't see this as a speed bump, and they don't feel safe entering our industry as an associate. They think it will last a long, long time. So how do you think about that? Kelly, I'll start with you, and I'll go around from my screen. So let me ask you that first, Kelly. So do you think this is going to take a decade to get out of, or are you optimistic, like some say, 6 or 12 months we'll be back on track? What's your real feeling and gut feeling?
My gut feeling is it's going to take longer than we expect. I don't think it's going to be a decade. I'm hopeful that it's not going to be a decade. I think it's going to alter the way 100% we do business in the future. I think we have to find alternative solutions in a way that's not going to add to such additional cost of things. I constantly say, how do we find the good in this somehow? How can we find it? And I think the big part and the best part is what we've seen, I think most people have seen, is community. and how we all have really come together as a community. And when I say that, I don't just mean the hospitality community. I don't just mean an attraction in a hotel. I mean the business community, the chambers. We've all come together to find better solutions that will help us in the future.
Okay.
And one of the things, Dr. Ricci, that we had spoken about was, we have this program, it's called a Destination Champion program, and it was people within the community that would wave their flag to say, hey, I want to help you bring a meeting to the destination.
Yep.
And as we've had advisory groups with customers, they've said, wow, I'd really love your community to come together to help me solve for my keynote speaker that I don't really feel comfortable flying them in. I don't have the budget to do so. Do you have local talent that I can just tack on from there? Or you have such a strong community, will they come together to volunteer to help me in case I need them? Because I'm not sure if I'm just going to need someone to stand there and monitor the room to make sure people are social distancing.
Okay.
And what I've seen, it's been very cool that everyone has come together and we all want to support one another.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So, Danielle, let me throw it up to you. How long in your mind?
I don't know what the timeline is, but one thing's for sure, dining's not going away, weddings aren't going away, people wanting to connect with one another is not going away. So it's really just, right now, maybe it is a road bump as we adjust, but we're all just going to adapt to what our customers need, and we're going to find that path, and we're gonna fly over it, and it's just going to be different on the other side.
Okay.
So no matter how long this goes on, we're just going to adapt to what our, the guests' needs are, and we'll just excel from there.
All right. Anybody else want to comment on their time? Go ahead, Ed.
I was going to say, I think it's a speed bump. It's a big speed bump, but it is a speed bump. I'm going to say 18 months, hopefully a vaccine sooner than later, and I think we'll be back stronger than ever, and I hope to share that optimism with many.
Okay. Now, along those lines, everyone else has an even similar but tougher question. So, Donelle, I have to start with you, my friend, because you're working on them probably soon. How are we budgeting for next year? Owners always come back and want more. Oh, it's just a silly recession. It's just a little this, it's a little that. This is very different. Do you think ownership groups, real estate investment trusts, financial companies, do you think they get it that we're going to be reasonable this year? Let me throw it that way to you.
Yeah, I feel like it's gone on long enough now that everybody has the message. We all understand kind of where we are, including our ownership groups, and they're very supportive in a lot of cases around what can they do, how can they help support us through this hard time. And I agree with Danielle 110% that it is a small bump in the road, but the coolest part about this, you ask, should students still go to school for this? Should they still work to get a job in hospitality? And I say absolutely, because it's even more fun today than it was yesterday, because we're continuing to have to evolve and redevelop ourselves and come up with creative solutions. And I think that's a really fun environment to work in. So I would say absolutely they should continue to want to be in hospitality. But I think from a budget perspective, I think everybody's kind of aligned on what we're looking at next year. The challenges, we're all kind of shooting at a dartboard with half of our vision.
Yeah. David, you want to comment on that? Because the second part of the question is, how are you going to benchmark against something that's never happened,
Yeah, so interestingly enough, we're actually starting those conversations next week because we're on a fiscal here, and October 1 is when the new year starts. And I can tell you from speaking with the various presidents of the properties and such that it really is a dartboard exercise at this point. I think we're basing it on what some of our obligations are that we have to maintain, whether it's our debt covenants, whether it's the travel payments, whatever those might be, and then we'll kind of go from there. Like, that's our baseline, that we have to get to that number, and then we'll go from there. But
right.
I think it's difficult for us because we're so much more than a I don't want to be pigeonholed as a gaming organization, because just look at like the piece of our business that's entertainment. No one's addressed at this point yet. The entertainment piece, like we have a beautiful 6,500 seat room here in Hollywood that who knows when the next band or act will be in there, and who knows what that looks like, and how do you sell tickets to that, and how do you socially distance, whether it's 4 people buying to get, I mean, just think of the logistics of trying to sell a 6,500 seat room while adhering to social distancing. So, specific to the budgeting question, it's anybody's guess at this point. And I'll always advocate for a lower number, as there are financial benefits on the back end of that. But it's definitely going to be, I'd say, somewhere between what our expectations were for this year and what they were the previous year. Again, it being very different because we have our 2 largest businesses, which were not operating as they are now 2 years ago with the expansions at both Tampa and here in Hollywood.
Sure. And Chris, being in the destination management company world with really no groups right now, how are you even planning for 2021 in the DMC world?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've somewhat written off 2020. We've positioned ourselves in such a way that we are not planning on any significant revenue or profitability. I can't say this is necessarily the case for everybody across the industry or even across my organization, but my eye is on Q2 2021. That's really where my eye is, and it's unfortunate because that wasn't always the case, right? There was a time where my eye was on Q4 2020, and then it became Q1 2021, and now I'm seeing it sort of move along. So, but I think with things like a vaccine coming out, there will come a point that we're going to be back to business. I think one of the challenges that a lot of people are not thinking about yet, because everybody's so busy worrying about the now and how do you adjust operationally and whatnot, is how do you rebound? Because when it comes back, it's going to come back furiously. It's going to come back really fast, right? Are you going to be prepared? Are you going to have the finances? Are you going to have the people in place? Are your systems going to be ready? So being ready for that quick jolt, because it will, that day will come where everybody's where there's a certain comfort level. And do you make it to the other side of this, right? To even be there to benefit from that comeback. But just because there's a comeback of business doesn't mean there's an instant influx of cash, right? You better have the cash reserves to bring on the people and to expand your footprint and do what you need to do so you could take advantage of that upswing.
Okay. Along those next lines, I know that Danielle did something very creative during the start of COVID, so I wanted you to talk about that, because my next question is, what are you doing to be creative and unique and create revenues? And some of the questions that came in mentioned Hard Rock Stadium having drive-through theater experience. I did not know about that until I read up on it. That was pretty cool. So Danielle, talk about what you did at the restaurant, and any others of you that have something creative, unique that's helping boost revenues. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So when we were getting closed down, everybody knew that the shelves in all of our grocery stores were pretty much empty. But yet we had a supply chain that had everything that most of our guests needed. So we initially or immediately created a grocery store and did delivery for all of our guests' grocery needs. And it was very successful for about 6 weeks. And we were there for our customer when in their time of need, because a lot of people were really freaking out, like, we can't leave the house, we don't know how to get the essentials that we need, and we were there for them. And we were able to keep some of our team members employed. So that was very successful for us. And then the second thing that we did is that we teamed up with Broward County Schools, and we're supplying breakfast and lunches for 4 different schools right now. And that has provided, again, we were able to bring on more team members, create more jobs, and then also, help from a community perspective where, they needed us to step in there. So that's been great.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and creative, out-of-the-box thinking on the fly. And like you said, it did great for 6 weeks. Then the world changed again. Now we're on to something else, All of a sudden, toilet paper and paper towel was in stock again. So they don't need to go to Oceans, So what about you? Something new and creative that you've seen in Fort Lauderdale? Well, or your property?
Well, Peter, I think I want to go a different route, right? It's not what you make, it's what you keep. And so over the next years, the next 2 years, we're all going to be challenged in how we're going to bring more money down to the bottom line and really focus on waste without sacrificing the quality of service that is out there. And, I want to piggyback what Donelle said. I think for the kids nowadays that are going to go into hospitality, maybe embrace technology a little bit. The young folks are innovative. I grew up going to the library, so I'm definitely a bookworm, and I'm not a very innovative person. But when you look at the young folks nowadays, they will bring new technology to the table where the experience will be touchless, where we are going to be a more green footprint in our operations, where we're going to be able to save more money, where we are probably going to have the ability to save on labor as well. And as we are planning our budgets for 2021, those are strategies that need to be talked about, whether we want to place some capital investments in place in order to streamline our processes and embracing new technology that will help us in the long run from a long-term vision, because I don't think this is going to get much better until 2022. I think 2022 is when we're going to see a significant uptick, but I think next year is going to be a soft year. But I think I rather want us to also focus how are we going to embrace new technology and innovation.
Okay. The next question I wanted to ask is, I'm going to ask Ed because he's in the greater Atlanta metro area, and then throw it to Kelly because she's here at Discover. Some of the questions related to event planners operating in just survival mode, trying to do what they can. There's been a study by Destination Analyst, Inc. that said convention and visitors bureaus and DMOs are more important now than ever. So what are they doing in greater Atlanta, Ed, for the community to rally around tourism and to help bring people back? Are you working with the DMO? Are you hearing things? What's going on in that part of the world?
Yeah, I think, there's very close partnership, as Kelly knows, and our experience in Palm Beach showed that the partnership between the CVB and the convention centers and the major hoteliers are crucial. So I think strategy is important, and I think collectively there's been increased meetings with all the constituents in town here to ensure we're all focused on the same strategy as it relates to tourism. So I think that continues. That was started a few months ago, and it continues in terms of collaborating with all the constituents to make sure we're talking. And I think that's what's important. Everyone has different needs. Everyone is in a different location here, at least in the greater Atlanta area. We're a little unique. We're removed from the city about 45 minutes, and that's actually worked in our favor with protests and some riots in downtown locations in some major cities, and of course, citywides being down. There are some, and the drive market being a focus for us. We've seen an increase in the 20 or 30 person small meeting because they can get out of downtown. They don't have to fly, and they're still within a 2-hour drive radius. So I want to say collaboration, communication, strategy. As the Atlanta CVB is doing a great job, and that's similar to what Kelly and the Discover Palm Beaches has done. Okay. And I can go one quick note on staffing and what the youth can do. I think we're all being asked, and we will continue to be asked to do less with more, or more with less, I should say. And the staffing levels is very important. So finding talent, hybrid talent, that not only can sell a group, but maybe can sell a business travel customer, maybe can sell to a wedding or a catering customer, is going to be paramount over the next 18 months to 2 years. And that well-rounded talent, or those students coming up, should get as much experience as they can, learning about every facet about, at least in the sales capacity, if that's what they want to do. And that'll help them and help us moving forward.
Okay.
Adaptability. Yeah.
Kelly, we have about 7 minutes left, so comment on that a little bit about Discover, then I'm going to do round robin and ask you guys a final thing. So what is Discover the Palm Beaches doing in terms of full destination branding or helping planners right now?
Yeah, first, communication, understanding the strategy amongst all and how we can leverage that together. And the example that I would give in the Palm Beaches is that 70% of our hotels have seen some sort of meeting. It has been small, of some, maybe 10 people, definitely less than 50. But the majority of the business is coming from just within Florida. And so how do we make sure that we work together and say, are we trying to sell a meeting, or are we trying to sell the various product? And first, maybe, do you have a meeting? No. What about your employees within your business here? How can we leverage the 100 promotions we have throughout our county to say, maybe you don't have an employee meeting, but your employee needs a break.
Okay.
And they can go take advantage of this. And so it's really that leisure, the business leisure aspect of how can we leverage some of that. And then just looking at what is the future opportunity and how do we save on costs? Because, you know, everyone's saying we really don't have any money. So how do we collectively come together and find those opportunities? Maybe it's a virtual sales call. It's a webinar out to the community, or just, you know, pounding the pavement again. So just more communication.
All right. And I'm going to close with this question. If you could just answer it very briefly. I'm going to start with myself. What has this pandemic done to change you as a hospitality professional? And for me, I'm going to say it's made me more creative, because I'm, as Heiko said, I'm the guy I'm not very creative. I think he said something like that. I'm not either. I've had to become adaptable and creative. We had an idea to throw out a certificate. It went global. I expected 100 people with 77,000. I flipped out. I dealt with it. So for me, emerging through this, I'm telling my students, be adaptable and be creative. So Elizabeth, how about you? You're nodding. You go first. What's your thing or two that, as a human hospitality professional, have you gotten out of this from COVID?
I agree with you. It's adaptability. I mean, like I mentioned, all hands on deck, tying shoelaces in the skate counter or training staff on multiple departments. It's definitely being adaptable, definitely being creative, finding ways to get the messaging across, ways to keep people safe and still run an effective business. So,
great.
Definitely.
Ed, how about you?
I'm going to say adaptable, of course, but I'm going to say I care more now. I think it's forced me to care more about the team and the staff, of course, their health and well-being, and then care more about the health and well-being of our customers and what their hot points are. So I'm going to say it's resulted in me caring more.
Excellent. Chris, how about you?
I think my coaching skills as a leader, as an organizational leader, my coaching skills have gotten better. I've been put in different situations, scenarios, some tough ones, where I'm delivering tough news, or I'm trying to provide some support or new direction to my team because they're taking on new responsibilities and the difficulty that comes with that. So I think through this, my coaching skills have improved.
Excellent. Kelly, how about you?
I think creativity, absolutely, and then finding balance. I could find myself being on a webinar 8 hours a day, but really finding that right balance to create kind of the whole health and wellness, mind, body, and spirit.
Okay.
So,
nice. David, how about you?
Yeah, I would echo so much of what everybody said between the balance and the flexibility and such, but I guess the one thing for me that stood out has been the collaborative nature of this thing, as I mentioned earlier, about having so many different aspects of our business, from slots to table games, food and beverage, hotel, public space, entertainment. Really had to rely on the subject matter experts in all those areas and to be collaborative to put together our plans so that they were all inclusive of the customer's needs, the employees' needs, and the general world around us. And to realize that none of us have all the answers, especially in a situation that no one has ever experienced before. So to be able to collaborate and work with folks that have the specific subject matter expertise, that's really been very helpful.
Excellent. Donelle, how about you?
I think a lot of what everyone else said, but I also feel a lot of humility. Having to watch my team go through what they've had to go through, being without a job and trying to feed their families, it's gut-wrenching, it's heartbreaking. But there's also been a lot of learnings, a lot of creativity, and a lot of unique ways of looking at things in order to come out on the good side of things, right? So you could wallow in this is a bad situation, But really trying to find the good in things, I think, has helped, and it's something that I really had to do a lot. We had 600 associates, and at one time we were down to like 8 of us. So it's very difficult when you have to transition through that. And so the humility piece really sticks with me more than anything, but everything else that everyone else said is absolutely true as well.
Wow. Danielle, how about you?
For me, it's really been about being calm and keeping my composure. You know, when things go off in the news, it's all eyes on me. And if I, react to my team and allow them to see that my blood pressure's up, that they get panic as well. They take that on. But if I'm cool and, we really just have to look at everything very objectively, analyze it, and make very calculated decisions. And if I notice if I keep that composure and I stay calm, that we sail right through it, and we just keep our eye on what our objectives are.
Interesting. And many of you have mentioned that, like having to focus and re-strategize, and that includes numbers and labors and human. Heiko, how about you? What do you take away from this?
Oh, you leave me last.
Yes.
Not the sharpest tool in the shed here. So for me, it was really a validation of people. Our people are the most important investment that we have. Whether it's the folks that we work with, whether it's the ownership, whether it's the partners that we have, whether it's the vendors that we have, whether it's the associations that we are frequenting with, whether we have great friends like a Dr. Peter Ricci that opens his heart and gives free courses. I think when you take a look what people do, we can persevere as people. And, I appreciate the togetherness that we had from the American Hotel Lodging Association to the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association to the NRA that we had, that all provided us with such valuable information and tools in order to make the right decisions as leaders and put a plan together. A fine French chef once told me the secret of fine pudding lies in preparation. And when I just think about this, how did we prepare for this? We didn't. But we kept on preparing ourselves with every step and every curveball that was being thrown to us. But if it wasn't for all the people that stepped up to the plate and said, hey, listen, we're in this together, we wouldn't have persevered. And truly, isn't that what hospitality is all about? Our industry is about people. And for me, it was really a validation of the people being the most important investment that we have.
Wow. Well, I thank you very much for 8 panelists and me and loving to ask questions. I can't believe we made it in an hour and 4 minutes, so I'm very thankful. For all of you watching, if you'd like any information further, if you'd like to communicate with anyone, you may email me at hospitality@fau.edu. That's hospitality@fau.edu. I thank each and every one of you for your time, and I wish you all the greatest success as we take the next steps to recovery. Thank you all, okay?
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye.